Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see you. So, I am very hyped today. Today is October 30th, the Friday before Halloween. And so I am really, really happy because Halloween is my favorite holiday. And today at school, for the in-person kids, it's pajama day, so I'm wearing my Harry Potter bathrobe. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and be hooded up while we do this lesson today. So, we are going to continue with what we started talking about last week. We're talking about the musical alphabet, and we're talking about how we can actually read it on a staff, and how in the past I kind of showed you notes going up and down on one or two lines, but nothing like big. So this is big. This is a important thing because, sorry, this is an important thing because when you can write music and you can read music, you can share your music with other people and they can play your music, or you can read other people's music and share with what they've created. Um, Music is one of the most interactive arts ever of any art. With a lot of visual art, you just look at it, you appreciate what the artist has done. But with music, you can create and collaborate and do all this interactive stuff just very, very easily because of how music is. Music's all about sound, and music's all about creating sounds together. So, let's review from last week. Treble clef spaces. Reading the treble clef. I'm going to put my picture over here this week. So, review. What is the musical alphabet? What is it? What did we say it was last week? Goes from A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. When you get to G, what happens after you get to G? We restart at A and go again. We can do this pattern as many times going up or as many times going down, backwards obviously, as we want. And we don't have to start at at A. We can start at C or D. If we start at D, it'll go D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then it restarts at D. We'll talk about this more in the future, but whatever your note is that you start with, that's like your do note, your bass note. And that is where your what's called a key starts. So that's your home tone. And so the song that you're writing wants to go back to D, for example. If D is your starting note, it wants to go back to D. Or if it starts at E, you want to go back to E. But let's continue with what we're talking about today. You have 5 questions that we're going to answer during our class. And the in-person kids are going to start something new, and I'm going to try this with you hopefully next week if I'm feeling brave. But the kids that are here, the students that are here, are going to be doing a special kind of presentation called a pair deck. See this little pair guy down here? He's not just hanging out there. He is part of a really, really cool interactive like PowerPoint. It's actually Google Slides, but a really cool interactive Google Slides thing where I can give you questions, I can give you, ask your opinion about things, ask you to make things. But anyway, and you can actually do that without me being live. I can make my video of me doing this and you hang on to that presentation at the same time and actually interact with it the same way. But I'm going to see how it goes with the live kids first. Okay, so your 5 questions. What is a staff? S-T-A-F-F. What is that? What is a clef? C-L-E-F. What is that? What are spaces? What are lines? And what notes are in the spaces? We talked about this some last week, but let's go ahead and review. What is a staff? The staff is the lines that composers put notes and rhythms on to write music. Now, not all composers use the same kind of musical staff. Some don't even use a staff at all. But how we are going to write music most of the time is on this musical staff of 5 lines, which is the next point. It normally has 5 lines. The symbol at the beginning of the staff tells us what notes are on which lines, which we'll talk about in a second. But here's the musical staff, 5 lines. And by the way, we count lines from the bottom. So not the top. You don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You start from the bottom because it's like building up, like a building. You build the building from the bottom up, from the ground up. So your bottom line is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. 5 lines. Okay? Take that in for a second. 1, 2, 3, a 4, and 5. Okay? Next thing. Hey, you already answered one of your questions. You're 20% done. 20% done. What is a clef? C-L-E-F. Now, clef is a weird word, and there's a history reason that we call it that, but I'm not going to cover that right now. But the clef is the symbol that we put at the beginning of the song, and it tells us what notes go on what lines. So when you see a piece of music, and I'll show you a clef in a second, but when you see a piece of music, you'll see a symbol. And a lot of the time, especially in our class, you're going to see a symbol that is actually going to look really familiar if you've had me in the past. I'm going to grab something real quick to show you. But the symbol we will talk about is the treble clef. This swirly guy right here. So, like our treble clef prize, right? So when you get your 30 points in my class, I gave you this symbol. I give you a bigger one. This is a little one for pre-K, no, for kindergarten. But this is the musical award that I gave you when you got 30 points and that you took from the other classes. This musical symbol is the same one as what's on that staff right there. The treble clef is an important musical symbol because it tells us what notes go on what lines and what spaces. Okay? There are, to my thinking right now, there are 3 symbols that show what notes are where. The treble clef, one that's called a bass clef that talks about lower notes, and one that's called the tenor clef or alto clef, depending on what line you put it on. But we're not, look at me, we're not touching that one. That one is for like really, really advanced musicians, okay? We're only talking about treble clef right now. The older people, 4th and 5th grade, we might get to bass clef this year, but we'll see how it goes. Next question. Hey, you answered 2 questions now. Next question. What are lines? And you're sitting there thinking, Mr. Adams, I know what a line is. Yeah, you know what a line is, but I'm talking about lines on the staff. The lines are the black bars that you see in the staff, the actual staff. The literal lines on the staff are the lines of the staff. And how many lines are in a staff? We talked about it already. 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And these are just like the lines you would walk down in the school hall or on a wall you would balance on. If you're walking on the wall and you look down, that's kind of a line that you're walking on. So there are 2 places the notes can go, and one of those places is the lines. And I didn't show you the notes on here. I made that mistake. But notes could go on top of these lines, and you'll see that in a little while. So the notes could go on top of the lines, these 5 lines. The people that are going to be here, they're going to be able to interact with this. This little yellow X, that will go away in a second. That little yellow X down there, they're going to be able to, on their presentation, click and drag that onto a line. So you would take that. Actually, let me see if I can use this. Oh yeah, here's the laser pointer. So, and the orange pointer. So imagine that my orange pointer is a black dot of a note. It is on that line, centered on that line. So any of these lines you could use to put a note on, from lower notes to higher notes. And this is just to check in with the people that are here when we do this live, when I do it with the in-person students. All right, next. That's 3 questions down. Here's the next one. I bet you can guess what it was. Yeah. What are spaces? So spaces are where there is nothing, right? So if you're going down the hall, if you're going down the aisle of a store and you've got one shelf of cans on one side and one shelf of cans on the other side, the space that you're walking in is the aisle. That space in between 2 solid things is a space. That's where you're walking. The spaces between the lines, like a row between desks in your classroom, or the aisle between shelves at a store. And there are 4 spaces in a staff. So if the black bars are the lines, and there are 5 of those, these spaces in between are the spaces. These empty places are spaces. 1, 2, 3, and 4 spaces. Again, from low notes to higher notes. Excuse me. And again, the kids here we'll click on the X and drag it up here. Hey, eventually if I figure out how to do it and you guys can figure out how to do it, you'll be able to do the same thing as you're doing this asynchronously, but you can't right now, so don't try and click on it. Okay, so these 4 spaces are what we're talking about today. We're not talking about the notes on the lines. We're talking only about the spaces. I want to take it easy on you so you can kind of build up to it. We're going to talk about the spaces for the next couple weeks and make some music using that. All right, last question. We've answered all 4 of our first questions. What is a staff? It's the 5 lines that we put music on. 2, what are lines? What is a clef? That's the symbol that tells us what notes are on what lines and what spaces. 3 is what are lines, which is the black bars that make the staff are the lines, and the space is the place in between those lines. So what notes go in the spaces? To answer this question, we have to look at the treble clef. It actually has a second name. It's called the G clef. Look down here. See how it kind of curls around and goes up and around and over? And we're going to do some practice making treble clefs. It's kind of an easy thing to do when you get practice. You can just go and make one really easy. But this curly bit at the end, so if you start down here, and most people start their treble clefs from the bottom, they go up, around, over, and curl around this. Well, which line is that? I told you to count from the bottom, so which line is this? That's the second line. This curly bit curls around the second line, and that note that it curls around is G. The reason for this is that this is a very old symbol for the letter G, like very, very old, and they've made it fancy over time. So that used to be the letter G, and it's turned into this new symbol, not new, but it's turned into this symbol over time that doesn't look like the letter G anymore. You might be able to see it actually if you look really close. See it's curled around. This is the G clef, and that note is G. So if the note that goes on that line is G, there it is. There's G on that second line. 1, 2. This is where it curls around. The G is there. If that's G, what note goes in the space above that? So this space right here where my pointer is. So G is on that line. What is in this space above that line? Well, we talked about that a minute ago. When you have your musical alphabet and you reach G, what do you do next? What's your next letter? It loops back around to what? You're right. It loops back around to A. So we have G on this line, we have first line, we have G on the second line, and now we have A in that second space. So this is the first space, and this is second space. Okay, that G is going to go away after this. The note below that is going to be the first space, and we're going to get rid of the G because, again, we're not talking about line notes, really. I'm just using the G to explain this to you. So what's below that G? I apologize. Here you go. What's below that G? So think of the musical alphabet, and if it helps, write the musical alphabet on a piece of paper and look at it. Like, really look at it. I wish I kind of wish I had, like, A through G up here so you could see. But think about it. What letter comes before G? If you're going low again, the lower note is the letter before. So if you're going up and down a number line, before 2 you have 1, before 1 you have 0. So on your letter line, what note should come before G? I'm sure a lot of you have already figured it out and you're thinking, Mr. Adams, stop talking, just let me answer. It's F. F comes before G. So we have F on the first space. Then G is on the second line, but we're not talking about that anymore, so it's gone. But we go to A. Notice that there is a note in between F and A. F, G, I'll go this way, F, then up to G, then up to A. We skipped over G to A, F to A. That's a skip. So a step would be F to G. F to A is a skip. Notice that it's a little bit higher. It's kind of like if you skip over a step as you go up the stairs or down the stairs. If you skip over that step, you are going over a note. I'll keep my recorder right here. I'm going to need it in a minute anyway. What about the space above the A? We just talked about that F and A have a note in between them that we're skipping to get to the next space. So there is one letter in between A and the next spaced note that we're going to skip over. So remember, it goes F, then G on that line, then A on the next space. F on this space, G on this line, A on this space. What should the next note be on this line? Right, that's B. And then you go to the next note, and that next note is going to be what's on this space, which is C. C goes on that next space. And here's your stuff with F, A, and C filled in. So we have F, skip over G to A, skip over B to C. What should come next? And this should be a lot easier now that you've done this a few times. What comes after C? Okay, what comes after that note onto the next space? Skip from C over the next note to the next note after that. Just like A skipped over B to C, C skips over 2, 3. I'm going to show you in 2. I'm going to show you in 1. It's E. So you have filled in all of the letters of the musical notes in the spaces. Hey, what word does that spell? It spells face. F-A-C-E. And that is like amazing that it spells a whole word. You can actually spell a lot of words with musical notes because it goes from all the way from A to G. You can spell bag, B-A-G, those are 3 letters. E-G-G, egg. You can actually spell the really long word, cabbage face. Like you're saying that somebody is a cabbage face. You can play cabbage face on your instrument. But I'll do that later another time. So cabbage face is a full word that you can spell with the musical alphabet. Anyway, face, F-A-C-E, rhymes with space. Remember that. If you're thinking about the letters of the musical alphabet that go on the spaces inside the treble clef, just the treble clef, because another symbol up here will change what letters are where and where it starts. But for the treble clef, it starts with face in the space. It rhymes. Face in the space. Say it with me. Face in the space. Okay. And this is check-in again. So if you're feeling confused, feel free to go back in this video and watch it again until you get it. Okay? But I hear some of you say, Mr. Adams, so what? I know a lot of you want to say that when you're in class with me anyway. When you can read the music, you can play any song, ever. If you can read the music that somebody puts in front of you, you can play any song. Now I'm going to play a really easy song, and you're going to recognize the song as soon as I start playing it. But I do have a question about what note is this on the second space. So remember, what notes are where? We're going to work on memorizing it in the future so you get it really fast so you can say what letters are on what notes are on what spaces on what lines. But right now, I'm going to play this song for you. I'm going to play one-handed and point as I play it, so you'll follow along. What song was that? It was Mary Had a Little Lamb, and that's an easy song. I know. Fifth grade, you're sitting there like, Mr. Adams, that is such a baby song. That is so easy. But guess what? If I put that in front of you, you wouldn't be able to play it. See, it doesn't matter how easy the song is if you can't read the notes. It could be the easiest song in the world, which could be Mary Had a Little Lamb, or a song that has just one note. If you can't read the notes, it doesn't matter. You can't read it. It doesn't matter how easy the song is. Okay? Now I want you to answer my question. What note was here on this space? It's the second space, and we know that the first space is F. So if the first space note is F, and that would be down here, and you see that there are no Fs in this song, what's the next note? And remember, the word that it is rhymes with space. So F here, and then what? It's A. So this note here, every time it happens, is A. Always A when the treble clef is there. Always. It is always A. The nice thing about reading music is that once you get the pattern down and you know what the pattern is, when you know what the clef is and you know what letters or what lines and what spaces, it's easy. But you just got to learn it. It's just like learning your alphabet. You got to think back to kindergarten when you were struggling writing your cues. Some of you might struggle writing letters on the musical staff, writing notes on the musical staff. So it's okay if you struggle. Because remember, I don't grade you on how good you are at doing music. I grade you on how much you try to be good at music. I'm not asking you to be an amazing musician. I'm not asking you to be the most skilled musician ever. I'm asking you to be an amazing musician that doesn't give up. Keep on trying. Because this, like I said last week, this is actually a new language. So if you speak Spanish, hey, congratulations, you're learning your third language. So, and just remember, face rhymes with space, and that's important for our quiz. Let me take us to our quiz right now. I'm going to snap us there, okay? 3, 2, 1. Three, two, one. Okay. So here we are at our quiz, and this is the quiz you're going to take. When you click on the exit ticket, it's going to take you here. I'm going to read you all the instructions and everything. Stay on this video. Don't go to the quiz yet. I'm not going to give you the correct answers. I'll click on all the possible answers that you could click on, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, this is the right answer. I need you to show me that you know what the right answer is, okay? Okay, so treble clef spaces. Answer the questions as I showed you in the lesson. The first two are clicking questions. You have to click or tap on the picture where the question tells you to. And it feels like some people don't understand what this question is. This is called a hotspot question, where I'm going to give you a picture and you need to click on the right part of the picture. Okay, and I'll describe this one once we get there. The last question is also a clicker one. I changed my mind before I changed the directions. I'm going to do that after I make this video, though. So you're going to click on the correct letters of the treble clef, of the spaces of the treble clef notes. If you have any trouble with any questions, retake the quiz. I've got a lot of people that have been giving me zeros because they've rushed through and answered it and not gotten anything right, and they've left it as a 0 instead of going back. Retake it. Retake the quiz. I've got it unlimited. Hey, this isn't college. In college, yeah, you get one chance and you're done. But this is elementary school, and this is something brand new that you have not learned before from me. So you have unlimited chances, all the way from now to December 22nd, because that's when the second 9 weeks end. Okay, so you have plenty of time. If you're a brand new student, and I tell you, hey, do this thing, and it's December 19th, you still got time. You got 4 days. Do it. Do the work. Do the work. Even if you get a 0, go back. Even if you get I got 3 questions. If you get a 66, go back and get 100. Make the effort. Anyway, if you have any questions and the video doesn't answer it, feel free to email me, obviously. All right, first question. Click on the picture that shows X's covering the lines. So one of these staves, by the way, the plural of staff is staves, not staffs. It's a language thing. It's a weird language thing. But one of these staves, so this guy right here or this guy right here, they're X's. They're not musical notes. I wanted to do X's so you can think about it a little bit differently. The X's in this staff are either covering the lines or the spaces. And the first question is asking you to click on the one that's covering the lines. So you'll click on either this one or this one. It doesn't matter where you click on it. The correct answer is pretty much half and half. So if you're below half and you think it's this one, cool. If you're above half and you think it's this one, you can click pretty much wherever. Okay? So I'm going to put it right in the middle so you don't think that I'm trying to cheat you and make you think that I'm clicking on the right answer. Lines for this one. Okay, this is the same picture for the second one. The second one, though, is asking you to click on the ones with the X's on the spaces. Think the aisle in a store between the shelves. So you need to click on the one that shows the X's on the spaces. And again, it's half and half, so just click on the half that you think it is. You can even click down here on this half, doesn't matter. This is still the one for this one, and so this is still the answer for this one. But which one do you think is on the spaces? I'm going to leave my cursor in the middle. Okay, last question. Click on the part of the picture that has the correct note names on the spaces. So I've given you the notes on the spaces. Now I've gone back to what it was in the presentation, and you've got the letters, the notes on the spaces. But I have filled in 3 of these with incorrect letters. Your job is to click on the one that has the correct letters. Okay? Click on the one that has the correct letters. Remember, it rhymes with space. Okay? When you're done, click submit, and it might ask you to click submit again. Do it. Don't just leave it, because then it will come up as a 0, and that might be the reason some people have 0s, because they don't finish their quiz. But click submit until it gives you the nice confetti that Canvas always does, and then you're done. Next week we'll talk about spaces some more. We'll read some music using spaces. I'm thinking about how I want to try and do recorders, and because doing recorders with this will help a little bit, but if we don't, that's okay. But we're going to talk about reading music, actually reading music with notes on the spaces. Only on the spaces. And then we'll get to lines eventually. Alright guys, I hope you have a really happy Halloween. This will be too late for me to remind you of this, but I hope that you come tonight on October, let me say it this way. I hope you came on October 30th to the school between 6 and 7 to do trunk or treat with the teachers. I will have been there. That's a weird sentence. I will be there tonight on October 30th, dressed as Alan Grant from the first Jurassic Park movie, and my trunk's going to have a whole bunch of little dinosaurs and plants in it, sort of showing you Jurassic Park. It's one of my favorite costumes that I've ever done, just because I like Alan Grant. He's a cool character. Person who never gives up. Okay, do your quiz. If you do well, awesome. Starting next week, I'm going to have a lot more stuff for you to do after your lesson if you want to do some extra stuff. It's going to be making music. It's going to be composing music. But for now, hope you have a happy Halloween. Please stay safe. I hope to see you tonight. See ya.